Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back. Welcome back to another video. So, today we are going to be looking at this Venus retrograde coming up in the sign of Capricorn. So, we're going to be looking at how it will be affecting you. Yes, we are going to get into all 12 signs. So, stay tuned. Okay, let's do this. So just to give a brief overview for you all before we go into your sign, which by the way, watch for your sun, moon and rising today. This retrograde is going to be taking place in the sign of Capricorn, so the Venus retrograde. It's going to be taking place in the sign of Capricorn between December 19th, 2021 and January 29th, 2022. Now, Venus is currently in its shadow period and it's been in the sign of Capricorn from the 5th of November and it will continue to do so right up until the 6th of March 2022. So that's a very, very long time. Now, I am going through my Venus return because I have my natal Venus in Capricorn and then mixed in with that retrograde energy. Yes, I am excited to see what will unfold. Though also interestingly enough, I just want to mention that this Venus retrograde will be conjunct Pluto at the beginning. So expect profound change, deep inner transformations, and expect impactful renewal. But we, of course, will get more into the details as I discuss the signs. And then lastly, before we dive into this, remember that the sun will be in Capricorn for a good duration of this Venus retrograde. So will Mercury and Mars. So these celestial bodies will pass through the sign of Capricorn whilst this retrograde is going on. Okay, right. So let's get into each of these signs. Aries, sun, moon, and risings. So this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 10th house of profession, authority, your life path, status, long-term goals. So you may find that your honesty and your integrity, they are being tested within these areas. So this could look like a boss or a manager coming to you and expecting more from you, or maybe you can sense corruption or power plays from these people, possibly leading to you reassessing the value of such relationships. Also, perhaps your responsibility is being highlighted here, especially your responsibility amongst members of the public or your responsibility within a particular company or firm that you work for. You know, maybe you're in a position where you've been working for a company for so long, and I mean years, but now you want to cut ties, maybe you want to end things, maybe you just simply want to change things, you feel like you've outgrown a certain stage or chapter, and so perhaps you don't feel as valued as you once did. Or maybe you're starting to take your professional value more seriously during this time, possibly causing you to seek a promotion or a new public position, for example. Then again, this could be a situation where you have matured greatly within the public arena, but you don't feel like you can grow much more. Maybe you don't see yourself in said position 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, even 20 years. And so you're starting to rethink basically your role. You're starting to reassess where you do see yourself later on. And what can come with such realizations are these endings and these new beginnings. Quite possibly you think to yourself, I'm really not being honest with myself here. I'm not being honest about my long-term goals. And so you can use this as an opportunity. You can use this retrograde as an opportunity to put a plan in place so you can restructure your life path. Yeah. When it comes to you, Aries, you persevere. You work very hard, especially when it comes to matters of your career, when it comes to your professional life. You don't take no for an answer. And once you make your mind up, that's it. You're headstrong and nobody is going to make you do anything that you do not want to do. But yet, what I think this retrograde is communicating, it is communicating a message of change, whether you like it or not. Whatever was working, that worked for so long. Okay, that's good. Appreciate that. But perhaps it's just not going to cut it anymore. It's not going to work the same way it used to. And I know that that may be very difficult for you to hear, but this is your long-term future we are talking about. Your long-term future in association with your security, earning a living, your stability, your foundation, and quite honestly, you place much of your focus into creating a sturdy and structured life. And so therefore, this Venus retrograde is a time period where you are reviewing these things. So asking yourself questions like, where do I see myself in 10 years? What kind of money do I want to be making and doing what also? What am I working towards and can I achieve such things realistically speaking? Or what steps can I put in place in order to succeed? But along the way, do not forget to recognize how far you've come. Appreciate the value of your work. Keeping in mind here that Venus energy is very much about appreciation. And so what can come with this is you appreciating your current skills, your talents, or reviewing these things, and also looking at the value of such things. Likewise, assessing what new skills you would like to potentially establish. And so, by the time you do come out of this Venus retrograde, you can apply what you have learned to your professional life and to your purpose. So for example, this could be how you manage your money, which can then contribute to your long-term achievements, or this could be how you socialize with members of the public, or this could even possibly be to do with how you provide value. What value are you bringing to the public? What value are you bringing to your societal position? Maybe by putting in a little more effort or by restructuring things, you will be rewarded and recognized. Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So this Venus retrograde will be taking place in your 9th house of beliefs, meaning, higher education, ethics, and long distance travel. So you may find that your commitments are being tested when it comes to these things. So looking at higher learning, for example. This could look like you experiencing blockages or limitations within a particular training program or within a particular educational program that you've been a part of for years, for a long time, but it's difficult for you to overcome these blockages. Or maybe you even think to yourself, will I ever get it? Will I ever learn this? Maybe you'll be having serious, mature conversations with professors or teachers or with your elders. You basically call on them for a professional opinion and for some constructive advice. Or maybe it's really about asking someone with more experience within a particular field that you are educating yourself within. So looking at someone who is pretty knowledgeable on a particular subject matter that you're struggling with. See, you might have the tendency of doubting yourself, okay? So doubting that you can achieve your future aspirations, and you may also possess fears towards these things, fears towards travel, or fears even towards doing things outside of your comfort zone, you can sometimes limit yourself from opening yourself up to new things, or limit yourself from expanding or broadening your horizons, so to speak. And so maybe what this Venus retrograde is bringing in here, it's bringing in an opportunity for you to possibly review these doubts and these fears, along with reviewing any potential long-held limiting beliefs you possess about yourself and about the world around you also. Maybe you do have what it takes to become, for example's sake, a professional teacher or a business owner or a parent, but refusing to grow can sometimes block you from pursuing these things. Then again, perhaps this is about you realizing what you no longer want to accomplish, or maybe the value of a particular belief, it's not valuable to you anymore. And so you walk away, you cut ties from such faiths, beliefs, from certain educational programs that just no longer serve you. It's like you're outgrowing these things. And these things also, you're thinking about the long haul. So you're realizing that these things will not serve you in the long haul. Or maybe you notice how much certain gurus or teachers, how much they want to dominate and control. And so you think, how corrupt, I no longer want to give these people my money or my attention. I don't want to place as much value into these things as I once did, or into these people as I once did. Taurus, it can take a long time for you to change your beliefs, and I mean a long time, but once you do, you're typically very firm in your decision. Still though, maybe this Venus retrograde, it's ushering in a chance for you to reevaluate the value of the bigger picture. Okay, and the value of your meaning, the value of your future aspirations also. So asking yourself questions like, how do my limiting beliefs shape my experience? And am I being honest with myself over what I believe? Or how can I establish a long-lasting belief system that strongly supports me? Or even also, when I share my truth, do I do so with integrity? Do I do so with self-respect? Or how do my relationships tie in with my future aspirations? Or can I make a living from the training and from the higher learning I'm working on now? Then also looking at how these things contribute to your life later on down the road. Okay, when it comes to Capricorn energy, it's very much about, okay, where do you see yourself 10 years, 20 years from now? Though, another thing to mention is how your integrity and how your honesty are being tested when it comes to your ethics and when it comes to your morals. So for example, perhaps your conscience, at times it says, don't do that because you'll pay. Or don't go against what your morals are, what your beliefs are, because if you do, you just might regret it in the future. And quite honestly, this is pretty heavy stuff, because one slip up can lead to a whole series of events that you can't take back. So just keep in mind here, I suppose here, your self-respect. Also keep in mind what you stand for, what your beliefs are, what your morals are, how you live your life, and what philosophies do you live your life according to. Also keep in mind your current responsibilities. So your responsibilities to walk the walk when it comes to your faith, for example. And maybe it's also about recognizing how hard you have worked so far, okay? Appreciating how hard you have worked when it comes to, for example, doing the morally correct thing, or looking at how hard you have worked towards achieving future aspirations as another example. So it's taking also time to appreciate your journey so far and the things that you have learned so far and the value of the beliefs that you do have. And so perhaps by the time you come out of this Venus retrograde, you'll see what structures you have in place in association with your beliefs, with your higher learning, with your ethics, and so on. And it's these structures that can set you up for long-lasting success, such as, well, establishing a really solid and secure relationship, maybe with God, or perhaps also this could be you establishing a stable relationship with certain teachers, or perhaps you develop a philosophy that teaches you about the very value of responsibility. Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 8th house of intimacy, bonding, vulnerability, loss, emotional complexes, and shared resources. All of the really heavy stuff, the stuff we love. So you might find that your fears when it comes to vulnerability and opening up, these things are being challenged. Or you may find that your honesty and your integrity, these things are being tested when it comes to these particular areas that I just mentioned in association with the 8th house. Though still looking at vulnerability here more closely, perhaps you have actually underwent a particular trauma, for example, in association with opening up. Or maybe you were traumatized by a father figure or by a member of authority throughout your childhood. Either way, I think your inner world is being highlighted here. Maybe you find it difficult to address harder emotions, for example, or maybe you possess emotions that feel trapped and they feel blocked. Then again, perhaps there are emotions that you are working on, that you have been working on throughout the years, so these emotions, they are repressed. Or maybe it's that you have repressed certain emotions over a longer period of time, and so this Venus retrograde can be used as a time to reevaluate these difficult emotions. See, you typically gloss over challenging emotions that feel uncomfortable. You don't sit in your feelings very much, especially given that you tend to rationalize your emotions and feelings, or you prefer to share your emotions more logically. But such things can lead to rigid, intimate relationships where you're guarded, or relationships where you try to remain in control at all times, or even relationships where it can just feel like there is a block between you and another person. Therefore, perhaps this Venus retrograde is ushering in a time period for you to sit with uncomfortable emotions. Or it's a time where you evolve and where you change, such as you gradually and slowly learn to open up. And this could be you actually showing some type of vulnerability towards trusting and well-respected people in your life, possibly leading to a stronger and more rewarding bond between you and somebody else. But again, maybe it's that your integrity and your honesty, these things are being tested when it comes to your intimate relationships, such as you addressing any unconscious controlling behaviors that you bring into your intimate connections, or you realizing that someone in your life is refusing to change theirs. Maybe you'll start to reevaluate the long term with said people. Or perhaps you are reassessing the structure or the foundation of the resources that you share with another. Or maybe this is about you clearing debt or tying up loose ends when it comes to shared accounts, or quite possibly you will undergo endings and new beginnings when it comes to your responsibilities, such as you cutting off a financial responsibility that once bonded you to another person. Perhaps this is a time period where you ask yourself questions like, can I handle and manage all of these responsibilities that I have with another person, or that ties me to another person? Or how can I establish a deeper and more successful, rewarding relationship with the person who knows me better than anyone? Then again, maybe it's also a matter of you asking yourself, do they really know me? Am I being honest with myself when it comes to how close people get to me? Also, how do I see my shared resources materializing in the future? And is the hard work I'm doing today going to contribute to the successes I seek later on down the line? Likewise, asking yourself, when do I shut my close relationships out? And how can I seek a more honest connection? Perhaps by diving deeper into your unconscious and into your emotional world, you can gain new insights, which then can contribute to a more well-established connection. Then again, it could be that you learn along the way that there are certain things that you're no longer willing to tolerate. Things that you do not wish to bring into your future plans. And so maybe boundary setting is a big thing here, something to keep in mind. Then again, perhaps it's also about being honest with yourself when you feel insecure, or when you feel an urge to push others away, when you feel uneasy. Or maybe even this retrograde is ushering in an opportunity for you to, again, back to appreciate how far you've come when it does come to the internal work that you've performed over the years. I mean, especially with Pluto transiting your 8th house for so long, I'm sure it's brought up a lot of uncomfortable emotions and feelings for you. And so appreciating how hard you have worked on yourself. I mean, for example, if you've been going to therapy for a few years, or if you have really taken the time to know yourself more deeply, how your mind works, how your psyche works, then it's taking the time to appreciate the lessons that you have learned along the way. Then again, maybe this retrograde can be used as a time to review funeral plans or life insurance, things that we don't really enjoy in life, but they have to be done. Or maybe it's about reassessing your sex life, especially if you plan on having sex with a certain somebody for a long period of time. So looking at the effort that you put into that connection that you build with another sexually, but then likewise intimately overall. Though whatever the case, by the time you come out of this retrograde, perhaps you will have set new disciplines and efforts and long-lasting structures in place. Cancer, Sun, Moon and Risings. So this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 7th house of relationships, opponents, clients and unconscious parts of the self mirrored through others. So you may find that the quality and the structures of of these things, they are being tested. So even looking at your relationships, for example, along with your relationship commitments, anything that isn't working, it's going to be felt and it's going to come up. And to be blunt, you may have to address such things as uncomfortable as they may be. So looking at where you perhaps project insecure feelings onto others, or when you project your fears and any pessimistic tendencies onto others. Likewise, looking at any manipulative tactics that you bring into your relationships, or looking even at any unconscious feelings of jealousy and control. And so therefore, by getting to the bottom of these things, you may be presented with a few hard truths. Truths that will either make or break your relationships. Also, truths that will show you necessary work to be done. Though on the other hand, if you find yourself continuously just hitting a wall, repeating the same mistakes, it's a question of, will this relationship really last long term? Seriously, realistically speaking, will it? And so, Cancer, you may find that certain relationships, they come to a close. Or current relationships, they enter a new chapter, preferably a chapter of growth and renewal and profound change. But with this being a retrograde, this all starts with you. This is an internal quest. But then again, of course, it is in the 7th house, so it's looking at the internal as a way to change your external. So asking yourself questions like, what is my future with this person? Can I establish a long-lasting relationship with them? A relationship that I can build on and that is rewarding for both of us? And what is required of me in order to show up within the union? Now keep in mind that these questions can be applied not only to your significant other, if it is that you're in a relationship, but also to your clients, your close friends, your business associates. Essentially, you'll be addressing what your responsibilities are within these partnerships, within partnerships overall, and at the same time reviewing the responsibilities of these people towards you and towards the union as well. Of course, it's not all one-sided. So do you think said people are pulling their weight, for example? Or are they refusing to raise the bar? Are they refusing to raise their standards or to change? Perhaps you'll be setting new boundaries when it comes to these connections, or maybe you're expecting for things to in fact change. Your expectations in a way, in this sense, have changed. You know, this could be a situation where you've been with somebody for years and years and years, or even just for a few years. It's a committed relationship, and you're noticing the same patterns just happening time and time again. And so you're kind of thinking, you know what, I would really like for something to budge here, because we can't keep doing the same thing over and over. And so whoever does not meet your new established standards and expectations that you review during the Venus retrograde, well, perhaps you'll also reassess the connection you share. Now, like I said, these things can be applied to business associates and clients. So therefore, this will be a time period where you review your efforts towards such people. Or you'll look into the trials and the tribulations that you face with them. Or perhaps you'll do some restructuring, reorganizing when it comes to these said relationships. Sort of seeing what will benefit you in the long run, what will benefit the union even in the long run. And similarly, maybe you'll be reviewing any feelings of inadequacy that you feel towards your competitors. After all, competition is a part of business, and there is a part of you that is business orientated. And so your fears and your potential insecurities and your doubts, these things are being highlighted. Or quite possibly, you'll be addressing any fears or doubts that you possess when it comes to marriage, when it comes to your future long-term relationships, or even when it comes to ending a long-term relationship. So looking at separation, looking at divorce. Is it that there's some fears over cutting ties or walking away? Or is it that there's fears surrounding entering into a long-term committed relationship because you are afraid of things ending at some point in the future? Suggesting here that this is a time period where you are really going over the value of your relationships along with how valued you feel within them. Or maybe you'll be confronted with parts of yourself that are controlling, guarded, fearful, rigid, these parts of yourself that you attract through others but don't necessarily see as a part of you. Then again, maybe from doing a lot of inner work over the years, you've been able to recognize these things within yourself. Or perhaps the relationship you have with your father is triggered in some way during this time. So looking at the lessons that he taught you, for example, or looking at any absences that you felt from your father growing up. So diving into just how triggering and how unsettling that must have been for you. But then likewise, looking at how you may see these similar patterns playing out within your own one-on-one relationships. So in a sense, diving into your traumas, diving into your memories, and diving into your projections. Or quite possibly it's about reviewing the parent you would like to be one day, or the parent that you currently are. So how you wish to show up for your loved ones. So do you not want to make the same mistakes your father did? Or would you like to structure and organize your life in such a way that you ensure a more stable livelihood? And so by the time you come out of this retrograde, perhaps you can implement and apply the things that you learn, preferably with the intention of establishing long-lasting relationships in your life. And then likewise, looking at appreciation in association with Venus here. So appreciating the quality and the value of your relationships today, or even looking at how far you've come within the realm of relationships and connection. And so by the time you come out of this Venus retrograde, perhaps you can implement and apply the things that you learn about, preferably with the intention of establishing long-lasting, rewarding connections and relationships. Leo, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 6th house of health, work, service, daily routines, and self-care. So you may find that your duties and your responsibilities, they are being tested within these areas. So looking at your working life, your working position, for example, maybe there are co-workers who are not pulling their weight. They're not contributing as much as you, or maybe you are finding these connections to be challenging, and so you'll be reviewing any issues that you are or that you have been experiencing with them. Or maybe there are far too many responsibilities that you're taking on with very little reward, with very little recognition. And so you're finding that you're not being valued enough by your employer, you're not being appreciated enough by your coworkers. And perhaps there are certain structures in work that you feel need to change. In which case, perhaps you review the possibility of changing jobs, or the possibility of you seeking a different position within the company that you're in, or the possibility of ending work responsibilities that you no longer can physically manage. You sort of think to yourself, this is not worth it. It's really not worth it when I think about it in the grand scheme of things. Or this could even be a situation where you notice how much the work obligations and how much the day-to-day tasks, how they're piling up, they're building up, and it feels like it's never ending. It's one thing after the other, and so you think, is all of this work and is all of this effort, again, is it worth it in the long run? Especially when it comes to your health and your well-being. And so in this respect, perhaps this will be a time period where you're asking yourself questions like, can I manage my routines and my daily duties, and for how long can I keep this up? I mean, can I actually do this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? Is my job serving me well? And does it feel purposeful? Or how much time do I physically have in the day to work with? Or am I facing limitations when it comes to such things? Then again, other questions could come to the surface like, you know what? Maybe I'm ready for the next step. Maybe I've matured within this position and I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for something to change. I feel like I've outgrown where I am, and so I'm ready for this renewal. Yeah, you Leos, you're typically very disciplined when it comes to your daily schedules and your routines. You really do put your best foot forward at work and you shine wherever you are. But maybe this Venus retrograde, it will be testing these things. I mean, for example, do you feel like you're being recognized? Do you think you're getting enough credit? Do you feel balanced, or is it all or nothing? You know, you might be ruthless when it comes to climbing up the working ladder, You might be very, very ambitious when it comes to the service you provide, when it comes to the skills that you want to refine, but perhaps your performance is being tested during this time. So this could be a situation where you decide to even, step down from a certain working position for your own health's sake. Or, like I was trying to get to, this could be a situation where you decide, I'm ready to step up. Where can I raise my standards? Where can I raise my expectations? Or even looking at the quality of your work, the quality of the service you provide, and how such things can serve you in the long run. Maybe patience is key. Perhaps addressing your fears is also a place to look at, a place to acknowledge. So looking at your fears of amounting to nothing, for example, in association with work. Where does that stem from? Do you compare yourself to your father? Do you feel the pressure to be on top of your game all the time? Or maybe you feel a pressure to work really, really hard at all times. Therefore, by addressing these internal things, perhaps you are presented with an opportunity to change, to grow, to transform. And also, there's something quite significant about your health and your self-care being highlighted. So looking at how you take care of yourself. And interestingly, you might struggle with things like joint pain. You may experience bone, skin, or knee issues with this Capricorn energy in the 6th house. Therefore, this Venus retrograde is giving you an opportunity to review how you attend to any potential health implications, especially if they impact your ability to earn money. And so maybe it's about establishing a new practical and realistic approach, or perhaps you'll spend some time reassessing your self-care. So is there consistency there? Do you take your self-care seriously? Or maybe you'll be reevaluating the value of your self-care or the value of your health overall. Or you'll be reassessing the value of your health and fitness related goals, okay? But then likewise, just keep in mind the appreciative side here. So appreciating how far you have come, what structures you have set in place over a certain period of time, a longer period of time, in association with your health and your well-being and in association with work. Yeah, taking time to appreciate the work and service you provide and just how much effort you really do put into things. Perhaps also you'll be forming new long-lasting boundaries when it comes to such things. Could even be that you reach out to professionals who can help you manage your day-to-day better, or you'll be connecting with elders in your working field who can provide you with practical tips and advice. Or this could be a situation where you begin restructuring your exercise routines and your diet. Whatever the case, by the time you come out of this Venus retrograde, Leo, perhaps you will implement long-lasting structures that can help you deliver even more impeccable working results. Likewise, you can apply new practical methods to your day-to-day. Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 5th house of romance, love, hobbies, play, children, creativity, all the really fun stuff. So you might find that your work efforts and your responsibilities, these things are being tested within these areas. So looking at love, for example, and romance. Maybe you will be addressing the long haul of a certain romantic relationship. So will you make it long term? Are there things you could do with working on? Or even if you're single, reevaluating the type of love life you want long term, or reassessing your self-worth even. So looking at any insecurities that you have, or looking at blockages that you face when it comes to putting yourself out there, or even when it comes to fun, when it comes to just livening up a little bit and playing. Perhaps in this respect, fun and play are things to address, because often you have the tendency of working so much that you don't make time for the simple pleasures. You don't make time for a little bit of fun and spontaneity and play in your life. Therefore, this Venus retrograde could be used as a time period where you are thinking about the workload versus play and leisure. Or maybe it's about reevaluating your discipline when it comes to such things. So having a cutoff time, for example, or setting boundaries with yourself. I mean, I know for me, I have a Virgo rising and I'm wanting to really step up my game when it comes to my creativity and my hobbies. But at the same time, my creativity is tied to my work. Perhaps you as a Virgo rising, or just as a Virgo, okay, sun, moon, or rising here, you're the same. But in order for me to step up, I have to set times and be more disciplined. I have to put in the work and I have to make the effort. Making changes often isn't easy, especially if we have been doing something one way for so long. But once we do put those new building blocks in place, it's possible to create new long-lasting structures. So yeah, I don't necessarily enjoy the fact that improving my skills comes with such seriousness and such hard work, and it can be time consuming. Though, to be fair, I do get a lot of enjoyment from reaching my long-term goals. Perhaps you can also relate. But the thing is that if you want a different result, these changes gotta be made. So, like I said, perhaps as a Virgo, you can relate here to what I'm saying in association with your hobbies and your creativity. Though at the same time, these things can also be applied to leisure, to your free time. So this could look like you setting a time for yourself to stop working, to be able to step into an area where, you know what, I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to relax, I'm going to indulge. Or this could look like you deliberately setting a time for you to play, for you to have fun. Yeah, perhaps this Venus retrograde will be bringing up these things. And so you'll be asking yourself questions like, where do I see this romantic relationship going 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Am I doing all I can to work on my relationship goals with my romantic partner? Or do I feel loved and appreciated when in love? Do I feel valued by my romantic partner? Also, do I see myself earning money through my hobby in the long term? Be realistic, be practical here. Or is there more maturity? Is there more professionalism that I can bring to my creativity? Now, again, when it comes to Venus energy, there's something quite significant about appreciating where we are, what we have done, what we have built, with it being in Capricorn. So also taking the time to review what you have already created, looking at your creativity, looking at the work and effort that you've put into your creativity, taking some time to just, appreciate that you have put in a lot of effort, or that you have been quite disciplined and you've structured yourself in such a manner towards achieving certain creativity goals. Now, furthermore, keep in mind children in association with the fifth house. Perhaps you are thinking about your commitments to any children in your life, for example, or you're taking time to review any children responsibilities. So this could be a situation where you are a parent, and so you take this retrograde as a time period to review your parental role. Or this could be a situation where you would like to become a parent. Well, then you can use this period to do some inner work. So looking at any fears that you have surrounding parenting, even especially with this Pluto energy coming in, maybe it's that you're going through internal transformations in association with the likelihood of becoming a parent. But then similarly, you can apply these transformations to your creativity. So I suppose in a way, realizing that perhaps you've reached a plateau or you've come to the end of a creativity cycle and you're ready for something new, you're ready for a new beginning, to step into a different version of what your creative potential is or could be. But again, looking at children, this could be where you look at potential obligations that come about from being a parent. I mean, do you feel ready? Do you have a practical plan in place? Have you done work on your inner child? Or even looking at the type of parent you see yourself becoming. Of course, you won't exactly know until you are, but this Venus retrograde is a time of reflection. You are addressing parental responsibilities internally. And even for those of you who don't have children or who can't have children, perhaps this Venus retrograde is pointing towards your inner child, towards even children in your life. So looking at your responsibilities towards these things. I mean, I know for myself, I have been in therapy for about 2 years now, and I would say that my time in therapy has contributed largely to me unraveling my inner child. And I've been going through internal transformation, so to speak, when it comes to my inner child. But of course I say that without getting into too much detail. So again, perhaps as a Virgo, you can relate in some way. So therefore, by the time you come out of this Venus retrograde, you'll have some practical, realistic structures in place. Maybe you'll have a fair idea of the successes you would like to achieve when it comes to love, creativity, play, and children, etc. Or maybe you will have worked through potential fears and insecurities within these areas, or you will have addressed any harsh attitudes towards the things you create. Because we all know how hard you can be on yourself, Virgo. Libra, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 4th house of home, family, emotional security, safety, and belonging. So you may find that your responsibilities and your obligations, they are being tested within these areas. So looking at your home and family, for example, perhaps you and your family, you have went through hard times lately. Okay, you've been experiencing hard times. Maybe there's been a death in the family, for example, or you and them have been experiencing relationship struggles as another example, or perhaps your safety has been shaken due to corruption or loss or possibly crime going on within the home. Maybe you have had to cut certain members out, or maybe you've had to set stronger boundaries between you and certain family members. And so with this Venus retrograde, it's addressing these boundaries, especially through the lens of how well such things are serving you emotionally. It's not easy when we realize certain people aren't good for us, they're not healthy for our emotional well-being, but perhaps you have been through a lot lately, Libra. And so it's the best decision, not only just for you, but also for the family that you have, for other family members. Maybe also you're diving into your responsibilities as a homemaker or as a parent or as a nurturer. Perhaps you'll realize what building blocks you would like to put in place in order to create a more structured and secure home for you and for your loved ones. Essentially, you're sort of looking towards the future, so looking at the long term now as you ask yourself questions like, do I feel emotionally secure in my current position? How do I feel around my family and my loved ones? Are my loved ones safe? Are they well? What disciplines do I have in place when it comes to my family? What are my ambitions when it comes to my family? Questions such as these, they may come to the surface as you go through these endings and these new beginnings here. Maybe you will review your current structures at home, so looking at how you show up or how much weight even you carry. I mean, are other family members pulling their weight, or is everything put onto you? Do you take most of the responsibility, most of the load? With Capricorn in the 4th house, you probably do. Perhaps you'll have even hard conversations with older family members. Or maybe you will begin putting a new plan in place when it comes to managing your time more effectively at home, or when it comes to managing your responsibilities within the home. So yeah, this could be a situation where you realize how much you have been overworking, how much you've been bending over backwards for others. And so you start to review how much you do for others versus how much you do for yourself. Or maybe you look more closely at your own upbringing. So diving into the past, reviewing past relationships, especially the relationship with your father. Maybe you will uncover new things about him, or you will start to unravel his commitments and his responsibilities as a father. Then again, this could also apply to your children's father, if it is that you have children, Libra. So I suppose this is another way that it could play out for you. But essentially, this could be a time where you are reassessing past events. And by doing so, you can mature within yourself. Likewise, this is also a time period where you are appreciating the family members or the moments within your home that make you feel safe, that make you feel secure. Taking time to show appreciation towards those who have showed up for you in your life. People who make you feel at ease and make you feel like you really do belong. You know, maybe that's really important to you within your relationships. Though another possibility is that you review this sense of belonging, where you feel secure. Maybe you have a plan in place to move even, for example, or maybe there are changes you want to make when it comes to your relatives. Perhaps you think, you know what, I can't show up for these people the way I once did. Or maybe it's that you want to step up. You see where more work is to be done, where patience is to be practiced. And by waiting things out, by being patient, by working hard, perhaps you will start to see certain materials come to fruition. Or perhaps you realize that in order to be there for your loved ones, in order to protect them, you also must look after yourself. And quite possibly you reevaluate the safety and the security that exists within your home that you currently live in, but also measuring that up against the type of life you wish to build on in the future. And so taking that long haul into consideration. And so by the time you come out of this Venus retrograde, Libra, perhaps you can apply your plans that you have to your home and family life responsibilities, or maybe you can apply a practical plan to your emotional well-being and inner security, such as addressing fears connected with family and home. Yeah, you feel a sense of purpose by looking after someone or something, but it could be that your purpose is really being put to the test during this Venus retrograde. Scorpio, Sun, Moon and Risings. So this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your 3rd house of siblings, speech, learning, short trips and your local area. So you may find that your honesty and your authority, these things are being tested when it comes to these areas. So for example, maybe you realize that you haven't been speaking up as much, or when you do speak, there is so much that you withhold. Or maybe you realize how harsh and how stern your words can be, how cutting they can be, how you can come across as really strict when you're communicating. Then again, it could be that you've been struggling with dark thoughts lately, and maybe your mind it's your worst enemy. And so this Venus retrograde can be used as a time to change these things or to transform. Or you can use the time to transform your mind basically in some way, to look at things from a different perspective, from a different angle. Perhaps this starts with you So looking at any blockages you experience when it comes to your mindset or when it comes to your speech, or looking at any fears that you possess in correlation with your speech. Perhaps you are limited in some way when it comes to writing or driving even. And so therefore, this Venus retrograde can be used as a time period to review these things. Perhaps it's about accepting your limits, or it's about working through them. So if you want to learn how to drive, for example, using this time to put a plan in place. Or if you wish to do something about how you communicate, again, reassessing the value of your communication. So do you feel heard by others when you speak, for example? And I mean really heard, really understood. Or do you speak harshly, leading to power struggles, and then people don't want to listen to you? Similarly, perhaps you are reviewing how you learn. Perhaps you want to learn something new, for example, but you feel blocked or you feel limited. Well, you could use this retrograde as a period to really look into these things. After all, by looking into these things, you could very well be led to further success, such as, learning a new subject that could set you up for something great and successful long term. And so you could quite possibly use this Venus retrograde to ask yourself questions like, how am I limiting myself mentally? Or are there things I would like to work on when it comes to speech and learning new things? Also, am I coming across effectively when I do communicate? Or are there new building blocks I can put in place as a way to succeed within the arena of speech and communication long term? And interestingly, I think you are an ambitious thinker. You think about being successful, of achieving your long-term goals. And so maybe you could use this time period as an opportunity to reassess what your future goals are. Maybe your future goals, they're connected with teaching, sales, marketing, education. They're connected with transport, or they're connected with building on better long-lasting relationships with your siblings even. Or maybe you're interested in taking short trips away. So making that as a part of your career, as a part of your profession. So being able to move about more, but knowing you can do it for many, many years. Or being able to move about more and seeing how by doing so that can help you in the long haul. And so therefore taking practical steps towards making these things happen, making them a reality for you. Or quite possibly, this is a time where you reassess maturity amongst your siblings, maturity amongst your cousins, or maturity through the art of communication. And so anyone who is acting childish or foolish, well, they are not being responsible, or you are not responsible for them. Or maybe you are realizing which relatives you are actually responsible for. Or perhaps it's about looking at the standards and the expectations that you place upon these people within your life. So looking at these cousins and siblings of yours. Or perhaps it's looking at the expectations also that you place upon yourself when it comes to communication. And essentially, it's things like these that are being challenged for you, Scorpio. But keep in mind that this is an internal process. Also, you're realizing how much control you really have when it comes to other people's minds and thoughts and their speech, etc. Maybe you're sick of hearing the same thing time and time again. Maybe you're sick of talking about the same thing, just going around in circles, and nothing ever changes. And so in this way, it's as if your conversations with others, they are transforming. You're ready for something to change. You're ready for a renewal. So in this respect, perhaps you will experience endings and new beginnings, possibly resulting in your communication or in your conversations being more valuable and being more respected even, or looking at these things aligning more so with how recognized you feel. Though, of course, when it comes to Venus energy, there's something quite relevant about appreciation. So perhaps this Venus retrograde can also be used as a time where you start to just show yourself more appreciation for your mindset, for your ambitious thinking, or even showing more appreciation towards others through speech. But again, I do think this is more of an internal thing for you. So I suppose in a way, as corny as it may sound, just being a little bit nicer to yourself, paying attention to the thoughts that you have on a daily basis when it comes to your own capabilities. So basically, by the time you come out of this Venus retrograde, hopefully your conversations, they will mature greatly, and you can also apply what you learn to your general social interactions. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon and Risings. So this Venus retrograde is going to be taking place in your second house of self-worth, skills, finances, stability and investments. So you may find that your integrity and your character, they are being tested when it comes to these things. So your money, for example. Perhaps you reevaluate the longevity of your income, of your earning potential. Or you are currently experiencing money limitations right now, and so you can use this Venus retrograde as a way to reassess these things. Maybe your responsibilities with money and with security, these things are being highlighted, they are being tested. So looking at the materials that you possess and that you have accumulated over the years, or even looking at stress you feel when it comes to money, when it comes to the things you own. Perhaps you will review the control you wish to have over the financial and material world. Or maybe you will perform some serious character building, so looking at your personality attributes. It could be you re-evaluating your maturity. So how have you grown over the years? As well as questioning the type of person you would like to grow into in years to come. Thinking about the long haul. Perhaps your growth, it has been strongly tied in with your self-worth or lack thereof. See, you might doubt your capabilities, or you might possess fears and insecurities which impact your self-worth. And so I think this Venus retrograde can be used as a time where you question, how secure am I within myself? And how does my inner security impact my long-term future, my long-term investments and my financial position also? Perhaps as you dive deeper into yourself, you realize that there are certain possessions and things that actually aren't worth your energy anymore. Certain people as well. Maybe you must set some strong boundaries, some strong and serious boundaries with some people, or you must show a different kind of discipline when it comes to your materials. Or quite possibly there's some serious saving to be done on your behalf. So looking at being cautious, being frugal with your money, or being realistic, more practical, or this could be where you reassess your investments. You look at how much you have invested over the years and looking at how much you would like to invest in the future. Also looking at how much you have just purchased over the years, how much you have accumulated over the years, and then perhaps even making necessary cuts, letting go of certain material goods and items that just no longer serve you, that no longer have any value, especially value in correlation with the long run. So in this way, going through these transformations, going through these endings and new beginnings in association with your material goods, and just kind of going, you know what, don't need it anymore, don't want it anymore, it's not going to be beneficial to me in the future, so why have it then? Or perhaps there is a new kind of investment you wish to make, but for the time being, you got to be patient, you got to wait things out, and you got to see how things materialize gradually over a period of time. And also keeping in mind the work, so the work and effort that's required on your end. or perhaps there are some practical obstacles in the way for the time being. Maybe you can also ask yourself questions like, how will my possession serve me later in the future? And am I willing to put in the work to see these things materialize? And what may start to unfold are these new beginnings. These new plans and structures will be put in place. And so maybe you will have particular financial and material accomplishments in mind, but yet on your end, you are required to create a practical strategy. You're required to make future financial decisions in a mature, reasonable, serious manner. Though another possibility is using this Venus retrograde as a time to practice your skills, or as a time to revisit your skills, especially if these skills lead to a steady income, a steady source of income for you. Or maybe a skill you're reviewing specifically is to do with your organization. So looking at how organized and how planned out, how structured you are when it comes to your material and financial responsibilities. So just following on from this point, I also think this Venus retrograde can be used as a time where you appreciate what your skills and what your talents are, Sagittarius. And also looking at the finances you have saved or that you've built upon over the years. Though whatever the case, by the time you come out of this retrograde, you can apply a well-established plan and foundation to your skills, stability, and your material position. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So this Venus retrograde will be taking place in your first house of identity, self-discovery, life path, action, and instinct. So you may find that your commitments and your responsibilities, they are being tested within these areas. So this could be where you review how you commit to yourself, so how you commit to certain plans or decisions that you make, especially within the realm of money, work, career, relationships. For example, maybe you've been working for a certain organization for some time now, for years even, and so you are reevaluating the value of your position there, or you are reassessing how committed you are to that particular position or to that particular firm. Same thing could be applied to your relationships, so looking at your commitment to your significant other who you've been with long term. Perhaps you and your significant other, you have made a long-term investment, or there is a life you wish to live or build upon with them. And so therefore, it's about using this Venus retrograde as a way to address these things internally, and then being honest with yourself about what comes up. Or maybe you are called on to do the more mature, the more adult-like thing when it comes to your life path and when it comes to your outlook and when it comes to your plans for the future. It's as if your adult responsibilities, they are requiring more effort and more work from you. Maybe it's not easy and you can feel the weight, you can feel the pressures of these added responsibilities and duties. But by persevering, you can gain much reward. Or by being strategic, by being cautious, by implementing a plan, again, this can lead to reward, and you can set yourself up for something quite significant later on down the line, something that's long lasting. Perhaps during this Venus retrograde, you also reassess your outlook on life and how this equivalates with success and with the long haul. Perhaps there are certain things that you have in mind and that you would like to achieve, but you're called to take the first step. This retrograde can be used as a time period to set a practical plan in place. And so asking yourself questions like, where do I see myself in 5 years, 10 years from now? What would I like to achieve by the time I'm 50? just for an example's sake? Or am I being honest about my direction, about my path? Or are there things I would like to take more seriously? Yeah, these are questions that you may ask yourself during this time, but also keep in mind how these things can be applied to your relationships. I mean, is someone else a part of the long-term plan, for example? Or are you good going at it alone? Maybe also there's a reevaluation of your traditions, so addressing how valuable and how important certain traditions are to you. Are there traditions that you wish to uphold, or will such things come to a close? Perhaps certain ones they do end, or maybe your outlook on life that changes, that transforms, it evolves substantially here. Perhaps such things come about because of how much you are currently unraveling dark truths and hidden information about yourself. And so you're evolving, and you have been evolving for many years, Capricorn. You are outgrowing older versions of yourself. Then again, perhaps there's something quite important about the appreciation here towards this evolution of yours, or appreciating what you have built so far throughout your life, or appreciating the maturity process that you have underwent over how many years, over a good number of years. And then likewise, looking at how you appreciate the natural process of growth and maturity. Then again, perhaps such realizations, they come about due to loss, looking at hardship, looking at pain. And I mean this in correlation with that Pluto energy being in your first house. So during this Venus retrograde, I think you are pausing for a moment. You are pausing for a moment to appreciate the beauty that has come with your growth and with your inner work. Then again, perhaps you have been working really hard on overcoming your fears surrounding what you can achieve in life. Maybe you have surprised yourself over what you can do, or maybe you've been working really hard on your self-confidence over the years. And so by the time you come out of this Venus retrograde, perhaps you will recognize just how much recognition and credit you should give yourself. And likewise, perhaps you will have a long-term plan in place that aligns with this new version of you. It's not easy taking responsibility, but it's you who shows the rest of us how to do it. Aquarius, Sun, Moon and Rising. So this Venus retrograde will be taking place in your 12th house of spirituality, solitude, intuition and healing. So you may find that your hard work and your efforts, they are being tested within these areas. So looking at healing, for example, perhaps you have been doing a ton of inner work over the years. You have been searching deep into yourself. So looking at your inner fears in association with career and purpose and your accomplishments, for example, you've been facing these issues head on with the intention of renewal and change, though such things have not been an easy task. Maybe you've went through periods where you just want to run away. You don't want to deal with others because other people's stuff just feels like a burden. Or maybe you've struggled to face your inner power, and so you've been working hard on accessing your inner power and your inner strength. There's this passion within you to bring it out, to show itself to the world, but still you have been experiencing blockages when it comes to such things. Therefore, perhaps this Venus retrograde can be used as a time to access your inner beauty. There's that, but also that inner strength that can be viewed as a beautiful thing, and even appreciating all of the hard work that you've done so far, all of the internal work that you've done, appreciating just how much effort you've put into that. Or even looking at accepting the parts of yourself that are extremely hardworking and ambitious. Or maybe you will come to recognize potential hidden talents you possess, and it's such things that can be implemented into your profession or into your field of expertise. Then again, perhaps this retrograde will also show you how to accept the things you cannot control. Or it will show you that you're not responsible for how other people feel. You're not responsible for other people's part in things. It will show you also that you're not responsible for everybody else's problems, even though you try to be. So yeah, sit back and be passive. Don't get involved. Allow for others to figure things out on their own, if they must. And so perhaps in this way, this is about you spending some good quality time in solitude, or taking a moment even just to recharge, to unwind, to again, sit back, don't interfere, don't get in the way. Or maybe it's about reassessing your spiritual beliefs along with how committed you are to them. Maybe it's about reevaluating how your spiritual beliefs, how they will serve you in the long run. And so perhaps you can ask yourself questions like, how often do I really check in with myself? Do I know how to step back and walk away from something I know that I don't have control over? Also, how hard am I working behind the scenes? And for what purpose or for what value? Or do I allow for things to pile up, resulting in my responsibilities feeling like a burden? And then all I want to do is escape. I just want to unplug from everything. Yeah, you might not be aware of how much you do in order to prove yourself to others, only to feel like that you're not doing enough anyway. And so you'll push and push and push even more until you can't physically push anymore. Therefore, perhaps you can use this retrograde as a way to check in and to create boundaries when you need to. So when you say no, mean it. Or if you know you need to rest, do it. Also, you could use this time as a way to imagine the life you would like to live in the long run. So visualize, pay attention to your dreams, listen to the signs, and pay attention to your inner world. Also tapping into your imagination. Maybe there's some blockages when it comes to your imagination. Or perhaps tapping into any fears you have, any fears associated with success or associated with building on your long-term goals. Perhaps here, Aquarius, your fears are only as powerful as you imagine them to be. Or maybe these fears, they won't actually materialize as much as you think they will. Basically, by working through the internal challenges, perhaps you can establish practical plans that help set you up in such a way that you can achieve your ambitious dreams. But in order to do that, a good step forward is getting your head out of the clouds. Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So this Venus retrograde will be taking place in your 11th house of networks, groups, friendships, wishes, and future plans. So you may find that your ambitions and your integrity, these things are being tested within these areas. So looking at groups and networks, for example, maybe your loyalty and your commitments to such people are being tested in some way. Maybe you realize that you don't connect within a particular group the same way you used to, even if that group, you've been a part of that group for years and years and years. Maybe you dislike the power plays that go on within these groups and you can't be dealing with it anymore. And so maybe certain groups, they come to an end, or your part within particular groups comes to an end. And so you set out on a new path to find different like-minded people, to find a different community. And whilst you do enter into these new cycles, you review the longevity, you review the long haul of these connections. So do you see yourself associating within a particular group of people in the future? Honestly. Yeah, maybe the ambitions you once had towards such groups, or the commitments that you held towards such groups, they change. Or perhaps during this Venus retrograde, you really start to reflect on how reliable other people are, how valuable they are, how meaningful and how worthwhile they are to your life. Or maybe you wonder about the future, so looking at your hopes and your wishes for the future. Perhaps you think during this time, there is so much more that I want to achieve. There are things I would like to do. I want to challenge myself. I want to push myself towards bigger and brighter things. But perhaps you'll use, or you can use, this Venus retrograde as a way to reevaluate those wishes that you have, these achievements that you have in mind. Or maybe you're hit with the reality that such things, they will take time. They will take effort and work on your part. Or perhaps you realize that you have some growing up to do, you've some maturing to do. Though to be fair, the same thing could be applied to your group involvements, as previously mentioned. So reassessing the efforts and the work that you put into these connections, but also looking at the work and effort that's put in from other people. And so therefore you can assess whether or not you put your best foot forward or whether or not other people are pulling their weight. After all, it's you, Pisces, who typically wants to be seen as successful within your groups. You wish to build on a well-respected reputation within these groups. You prefer to be involved with mature, successful and ambitious people. So again, maybe you can use this retrograde as a time to reassess this part of yourself. Or maybe it's about coming to terms with your fears or with your insecurities in association with these things. Or perhaps it's your fears that keep you from connecting with others. And so maybe you can ask yourself questions like, how do my fears keep me back from being a part of a group or from being involved with something that's greater than myself? Or do I see myself being surrounded by these people in the future? Are they a part of my long-term plan? Also, am I being honest about the effort I put in? Do I receive recognition from others? And what are my ambitious long-term hopes and wishes? It's as if you are checking in with yourself even when you are surrounded by other people. So paying attention to how you feel when you are around certain people. And we all know how sensitive and how in touch with your emotions you can be, Pisces. And also how in touch you can be with other people's emotions. Though I suppose following on from this point, maybe this is another thing to consider during this Venus retrograde. So looking at boundary setting within groups. Likewise, reevaluating times when you merge with other people's ideas and opinions, etc., whilst forgetting about your own. Therefore, you could use this time period as a way to establish effective and realistic boundaries. Or maybe you can use this time as a way to reassess your ideal goals that you would like to achieve within chosen groups, or even just looking at your ideal hopes and wishes for the future. Reassessing these things. But then also keep in mind the appreciation connected with Venus. So how much do you value and appreciate these networks you're a part of, these groups that you're a part of, and how much do you appreciate the role and the part that you play within them as well? Likewise, looking at the value that you place into your hopes and your wishes. Do you feel like you're capable enough? Are you worthy enough? Do you have what it takes? Or can you sometimes doubt yourself? Do you have insecurities associated with your hopes and wishes for the future? So yeah, just keep the appreciation in mind. But whatever the case here may be, by the time you come out of this Venus retrograde, you can apply these things that you learn to your current networks, friendships, and groups, etc. Or maybe you will realize that certain people, they just weren't meant to be. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video all about how this Venus retrograde in the sign of Capricorn will be affecting you. Now, if you do happen to have any thoughts and opinions on today's video, then please let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. But with all of that being said, thank you for watching. Now, if you do want a personal reading from myself, you can visit my website. Also, I've got some merchandise pieces available. I've also got some practical ebooks that are available. So as I say, you can visit my website if you are interested. Anyways, that is me. Again, thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing. And if you have not subscribed, then make sure that you do so. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!